Alright, so just really quickly to explain what this is. I wrote a book, and it is called Psychemogoria. It is about 37,000 words long. It's a Halloween special. It's very gory, it's very adult, it's not for kids. It is a horror story. It's a comedy story too, and I will explain more about it in the introduction. Like I said, I did write this. This is Psychemogoria by my pen name, Tad Illuminated. So, this is a full audiobook. These are the chapters. Introduction. Now, here I explain more about the story. This book is a dark comedy horror. I would say that it lands more on the comedy side than the horror side, but it is still most definitely gory at the very least. This is a parody of horror films. It's not meant to be good, it's meant to be funny. The writing is childish, that's what I think gives it charm. It's supposed to feel like a horror movie universe where people, though still not generally aware of the extent of the supernatural, are somewhat familiar with it. Another part of the idea behind this whole story, I was thinking what it would really be like to live in a world of various sorts of horror tropes. What if you lived in a world where there was constant zombie apocalypses, or every time you went on a vacation you got attacked by a Jason Voorhees type character? I mean, yes, it would always remain scary, but it would also, after a certain point, just be annoying, mundane. So, if in this world horror movie monsters are just kind of like random everyday pests, then what about a story about a kind of exterminator in that type of world, so to speak? This became the impetus behind the entire story. Developing from that idea came about the notion of having the main character be a paranormal investigator. The idea was to have this kind of hyper-competent horror movie protagonist who would be just as much a threat to the monsters as they were to him. I guess I just kind of figured it would be funny to have this regular everyday dude to have the random know-how on hand in order to beat these really high-level threats. The original intention of this book was for it to be the longest troll pasta ever written. I think that it has achieved that goal. I'd really only read this if you are very bored and need a laugh, or if you are like me and just very interested in horror comedy fiction. Special thanks to Aphex Twin, Cross, The Crazies, and the SCP Foundation. So yeah, like I said, that pretty much explains it. So, here we go. Chapter 1. The Psychos. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Though nobody was saying anything. The man shouting was busted up, bruised in the face, with 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. He was dragging a black garbage bag down a city back alley, specifically Peacock Street, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. An older woman stopped to watch him pass by. He didn't take kindly to that and shouted at her to scare her off, which worked well. Finders keepers! The black bag was heavy, smelled foul, and leaked some dark green liquid. It left a trail of sticky substance wherever he dragged it. He initially came out from the side of the road, somewhere from the woods, struggling with the weight of his luggage. After throwing it on the sidewalk, he jumped the guide rail, looked down at the bag, and said, "You're not like the others, huh? No, you gotta be something else. Maybe something I've never met before." It was the early morning hours, about 7 a.m. He hurried along his trash bag. It was too heavy to carry over his shoulder, so he pulled it along the sidewalk. There was a building, a white one-story cube-shaped store of some sort. It was isolated off from the row homes and storage warehouses and was closer to the woods. There was black text above the front entrance. Psychemogoria. He pulled out a ring of keys and unlocked the glass double doors, positioning himself to keep them propped open. He fumbled with the bag, pulling it in, getting green resin over everything. So, he dragged it into the empty office building. Inside it looked at the vacant police department. Clang, boom, scrape. He knocked over a chair, pushed a desk to get by. Some pens fell off it to the floor. He lugged the mystery sack to a wooden staircase going down to a basement. He tossed the bag down the stairs. Boof, sunk, bonk, crash. The man was exhausted and his legs and arms wobbling. He smeared blood on his sleeve, wiping himself off. Lightheadedness from the exertion kicked in, and the man nearly fainted, sliding down the doorframe at the top of the stairs. Then the bag started moving. Awoken from his daze by the sound, he sprang back up. "Are you kidding me?" "You gotta be," he kept repeating to himself. He ran through the office, to the largest desk, the farthest from the entrance. He ripped out the drawers, throwing them aside. "Is it in here? No. Here? Where is it?" Pulling out a bottom drawer, inside was a Colt Python, a revolver. Walking back to the basement stairs, he checked the cylinder to ensure it was loaded. By this time, the bag was starting to be ripped open from the inside. Bang, 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 bang. You get the idea. Click, sud. Whatever was in the bag fell back to the ground and stopped moving again. Okay, that solved that. He slammed the basement door shut, locked it with a key, closed the side latch lock, and barred the door with a wooden board. He went back over to the big desk, holding himself up by leaning on the wall and chairs as he passed by. Crashing down into the chair, he slumped over. A silver plaque was on the desk. "Mr. Foyle." Foyle reached down to one of the tossed cigarettes. Foyle reached down to one of the tossed aside drawers and pulled out a long cigarette and a Zippo lighter. He wondered if anyone would have heard the gun. I'm not editing it out, by the way. Fuck it. I'm keeping every single mistake that I make along the way in, so just either bear with it or don't. I'm sorry. He decided it didn't matter for now, lit up the joint, and kicked back his feet on the table. He waited for the clock to turn over to 8 a.m. That was, after all, the designated time that he was to get to work. Foyle decided that today would be just a half day, since he hadn't had much sleep the night prior. Foyle grabbed a sheet of spilt-over papers from the floor and assorted the scattered pages together. He got a pen and got to work on various bills and expenses, then moved on to reviewing some clients' papers, figuring out who he'd have to call today. Ring, ring. Foyle shoved the phone off the table, intending to silence it. Not now. And the phone fell and spilt out across the floor, with papers and knocked over tables and chairs. Hello? Hello? A faint, crackling voice acted through the phone. Foyle begrudgingly went over and picked up the call. What? Caller. Hello? Psychemogoria? Yes, this is Psychemogoria. We are a private investigation company. Why are you calling us today, sir? Yeah, I filed a request with your agency sometime last month, and I still haven't heard back yet. I see. What exactly was your request, sir? I hired you to retrieve an old family heirloom that was left behind at a relative's estate, and oh, my goodness, you must be of the Bahavati family. I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize your voice. Yes, that's us. I'm so sorry, sir. I've been meaning to get back to you for, well, a week now, at least. I've tried calling you a few times, but couldn't leave a message. Now, as for your heirloom, did you find it? Yes, actually. It wasn't at the estate anymore. The new owners had pawned it, and, well, I had to hunt it down, but I found it. And where is it now? Here's the issue. I can't mail it. I'll have to find a way to get it overseas to you. The caller thanked him, and they exchanged some more information. Foyle gave him some estimates when it would be shipped and arrive. Then he hung up and went back to his desk. Foyle turned on the main light of the office and walked over to a cabinet of various trinkets. On the bottom shelf was a jack-in-the-box, a painting on its side, and some dice. On the middle shelf was a cardboard box of photographs, a handheld glass mirror, and a pack of cards. On the top shelf was a toy horse figurine, a clipboard, and a lighter. On the very top of the shelf was a white black powder flintlock pistol in a case, and to its right was a display of a dagger-sized saber in its sheath, held up by a golden stand. Everything here had a story, and was somehow related to one of Foyle's former cases. The jack-in-the-box, well, all 3 past owners mysteriously disappeared. The painting was painted by a man, and on the back was written his exact date of death, yet it was painted years prior. The photos in the box were assorted by Foyle, of evidence, of mysterious objects in the sky, of supposed ghosts or other cryptids. The mirror used to be owned by a so-claimed witch. The cards used to be owned by a magician whose abilities went a little bit farther than those explainable by parlor tricks. That magician once made someone disappear before an audience on a stage. The problem was he couldn't bring him back, and the volunteer from the crowd was never seen again. The toy horse appeared one day in a warehouse. No company logos or signatures can be found on it. Nobody knows where it came from. There are no other known copies. The clipboard has the last written mathematical equation of a scientist written on it. That scientist went mad after writing it, and ended up screaming and thrashing in a mental ward ever since. The dice and lighter, however, were both perfectly normal casual objects. The flintlock pistol was an interesting one, Foyle's most rarest valuable object. It was estimated to have been able to shoot spirits and ghosts, and was quite expensive to acquire from the auction. It was a kind of historical item. Older than that gun, though, was the sword. The sword was a 1700s Indian Talwar sable sword, with a golden jewel-encrusted handle grip, and a black sheath. It was slightly smaller than most like it. This was the family heirloom Foyle was discussing with his client. Maybe I'll just say it got lost in shipping. It really does look cool. It brings the room together. Then came the familiar sound of those glass doors swinging open. A client? At this early an hour? Unexpected, to say the least. Foyle brushed himself off, brushed back his hair, and wiped off some more of the blood, debris, branches, and dirt off his head. Hearing the growing sound of footsteps coming down the hall, Foyle rushed to a coat hanger and pulled his detective coat off. It was a zebra print black and white blazer. He considered it his uniform, so to speak. He put it on to cover up some scratches and holes in his shirt, just as the customer came around the corner. It was an officer of the law. Damn. Yes, the customer was in full uniform as well, and this was a police officer. Assuming the officer was here regarding the earlier gunshot, Foyle mentally concocted a story about the gun accidentally going off 6 times in a row. Hi, the officer spoke, smiling and reaching out to shake hands. Hi, Foyle muttered back, staring forward, not moving much. The officer looked around the office, noticing the mess of toppled chairs and office equipment. Is this a bad time? Are you guys renovating, perhaps? The officer asked. Are you here to arrest me, or ask for my services? Foyle stared forward, looking through the cop. What? No, I'm here to ask about, well, I don't know if this is your specialty, but the officer handed Foyle a document folder of papers. There's this one set of cases, I guess that's, technically it's out of my jurisdiction, but several people have gone missing near Lake Erie, and my higher-ups are refusing to investigate it at all, for no reason. Here, You're like a private investigator, right? Yes. Alright. So you'll find this weird too, then. Foyle opened up the document and started reading through. It was mostly transcripts of police calls, reports on missing persons, all from the same area, all in the past 2 days alone. There were 7 calls total. Yeah, this is odd. Yeah, and my boss says they're not even investigating it. Will you look into it for me? And just, I don't know, if you can come back and tell me if it's some guy kidnapping people, or if they're getting killed in some dangerous local swimming area, or, I don't know. Foyle tossed a folder on the desk. Let me get your name and phone number. I'm investigating this one pronto. Well, I'm Rookie. Everyone just calls me Rookie. And Foyle and the officer exchanged some information, and Foyle had Rookie sign some forms, and Rookie left. Foyle grabbed his keys and walked out the back door to his car, carrying the folder for later use. Foyle had a black sedan, specifically a 1967 black Mercedes-Benz. I don't know where he got it or how he afforded it. His interest in the case was piqued, so Foyle started right on the long drive out to Lake Erie, specifically a town called Springfield, and even more specifically, the road Great Lake Seaway. Foyle had noticed that disappearances happened to those who lived right next to the Great Lake itself. Locations like The Rock, the most northwest you can go in Pennsylvania, to Raccoon Park and Camp Fitch. These were the sorts of areas the missing people lived. It was quite a drive out there. It took most of the day, but Foyle was unperturbed, and quite eager to investigate whatever could have caused these disappearances. Cult. Gotta be. Or aliens. Or the Illuminati. Neo-Nazis? I know. A neo-Nazi cult run by the alien Illuminati. So, the government, I guess. Foyle drove across the whole state of Pennsylvania that day. A 5-hour-long drive. It took from about 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. before he started to make it near the water. The area, obviously, was the county and region surrounding the technical port city of Erie. Lake Erie itself connected Pennsylvania to Canada, near Toronto. Foyle was driving down spacious woods and fields far separated from the big city of Erie itself. The road he drove down was now only a few miles away from the actual waters of the lake. Foyle's first stop on his trip was a bait and tackle store. The owner was on the missing persons list. There wasn't any houses or traffic or major roads around, just empty fields, some small lines of woods with some moderate undergrowth, and a couple streams. Cottages, houses, various stores lined the land, but all distant and isolated from each other. So Foyle pulled up to the shop. Finding parking was easy. He just pulled over onto the vacant grass and acted as a makeshift walking lane. Nobody was around, and nobody was going to be around, so nobody would care. The store itself was a big wooden cottage type of building. It had a wood staircase leading up to the visibly on its hinges front door. As Foyle neared the store, he noticed a window was left smashed, a chair that was thrown through it, hanging with its legs stuck in the frame. Realizing the situation was more severe and dangerous than anticipated, he drew his revolver. Foyle walked up to the front door, tentative. He pushed aside a rack of fishing lures left scattered in the front of the entrance. He called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" As he stepped in, gun drawn. It was silent, except for the ambience coming down from the outside. The birds, wind, and crickets and all that. The store was a disaster. Shelves had been knocked over, smashed in, their contents sent everywhere. Multiple windows or broken glass was all over the floor. Foyle noted that there wasn't much blood. Then he checked the cash register. Nothing was taken. So it didn't seem like a robbery. There wasn't any body, nor body parts. No people at all, actually. Foyle checked the back room of the store. There was only a tiny office, and it was less destroyed than the front room. But the back window was smashed outwards. Looking outside, Foyle saw a shoe, another shoe, a shirt, all torn up and scattered about, getting farther and farther away from the store. Alright, Foyle said to himself. He stepped back outside and got back in his car, and drove out to his next location. He was heading for the Erie Bluff State Park. 3 people missing were supposedly last seen camping near or directly at that area. But as Foyle was driving down the mostly empty roads, he noticed something. Tire screech marks could be seen, leading to a denser part of the woods and going down into a gulch. Foyle came to a stop, got out, and approached the scene. Looking down into the forest gulch, he saw a black van crash on its side, half submerged in a small creek. Well, I'll be damned. He walked down after it. The van seemed to have flattened the grass out of the way, clearing the path to itself for Foyle. Foyle called out again and received no response. The van had its windows smashed, but it wasn't from the crash. Foyle found a steel hammer next to some dried blood on the side of the driver's door. Foyle leaned down and investigated the hammer, not wanting to touch it. It still had a tag on it indicating it was new, and from the store it was was the bait shop. Foyle didn't touch anything. He looked into the back of the van from the ajar doors. Again, they weren't open in the crash. They were pried open. A metallic footlocker was left outside the van, seemingly dragged out from the back. In fact, there was 3 of them scattered around here. These metal crates were also pried open and left empty. Foyle read the lid of one of the boxes. Psychogen, Mark 1. Deciding not to touch anything, Foyle walked further down the stream, gun drawn, noticing various plants disturbed and pushed aside, and dirt kicked up, leading to footprints in the mud. Investigating closer, Foyle noted there seemed to be only one pair of boots and many pair of shoeless tracks. Yep, definitely cultist. Who goes shoeless in a creek? Unless it's some kidnapped person fleeing the government. Doesn't explain the hammer. No, not enough information yet. Then Foyle came across it. A straight-up dead body. It's okay. It looks like they worked for the government, so it's alright. The dead man was slumped against a tree, wearing a white hazmat suit with a regular standard gas mask. One lens of the mask was broken and the hazmat suit torn and ripped and stained with blood and dirt. It was either the blunt force trauma, the strangulation, or the bullet holes, Foyle said out loud to himself. Or maybe a mix. That's what killed him. Dusting off his hand and deciding his job was done, Foyle made his way back to his car. He still had leads and ideas as to where to investigate next, but Foyle had this notion he should call the police. He decided he didn't have much time and worried they would want him to stick around and explain the situation or something. But going against his better judgment, he did anyways. So he pulled out his phone and... Ring, 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 ring. Hello, 911, what is your emergency? There's a corpse on North Creek Road. Beep. Foyle hung up. He drove further down towards Erie Bluff State Park along the side of the road, however, in the wide open field, with a chain-link fence set up. Inside its parameters were a series of makeshift tents and camps and cars. There were even a few more black vans of the same make and model parked around. It was all vacant, and as Foyle drove further down the road, he noticed more signs of destruction in the fenced-off site. Parts of the fence was busted through. Various cars were smashed up. One of the tents were burnt to ash, and a camper was turned on its side. There were a few bodies, too. Some looked like they were in plain civilian clothes. Some looked like they were in the white hazmat gear. A few were naked. There was about 7 dead bodies that he could see. They were scattered across the field. Pulling over, he stepped out to get a better look and compare with the pictures. Foyle wanted to see if any of them were a match for a missing person. He cautiously walked through a hole in the fence. The tire marks in the grass indicated a car rammed through it. By the side of the fence was a dead white hazmat agent. He's been ran over. Foyle didn't want to touch him, so he kicked off his mask with his shoe. No matches. Foyle stepped across the ash of a random pile of burnt something or another. He checked a civilian corpse. Littered with bullet holes. No matches. He stepped into a camper that wasn't connected to anything. Inside, one dead hazmat had fallen down into the driver's chair, his suit torn up with holes. Near the back of the camper was a dead woman, shot 9 times. She matched one of the pictures. What happened to you? Foyle asked the dead. He stepped back out of the camper. He leaned on its side for a bit and contemplated the scene. Well, the government or something, I don't know, they likely did it. He walked back to the car. How didn't anyone see any of this and call the police already? There was one more place he wanted to investigate. A cottage owned by one of the missing persons. It was a bit down the road from the state park and deeper into the woody part. He got there and viewed the scene. Comparatively, the cottage looked fine. The door wasn't broken down, windows weren't smashed, nothing was burnt. So far, so good. He approached the house. It wasn't right to call it a cottage, it was a very big Victorian-style house. So he walked up the porch, approached the door. Opened the door, closed it again, and knocked. Waiting, he called out, "Mr. Jones? I've been called by a family member of yours, I believe, to do a wellness check. They haven't been able to contact you. They presume you to be missing." "Hello? If I presume you missing, I might just presume you wouldn't care if I..." Foyle opened the front door and walked in. Indoors it was a bit dark. Only some light made it in through the curtains. Even the doorway was mostly blocked by the porch and shade from the trees. "Mr. Jones? I'm a private investigator, sent to search for you." Foyle noted the interior didn't seem damaged. Nothing was disheveled or disorderly or broken or tossed about. A good sign. He stepped into the home, his hands running along the wall, searching for a light switch. He found none. He made his way to the main hall's carpeted stairs. He called out a few more times as he ascended. "Mr. Jones? Hello? I've been sent to..." A door at the far end of the second-floor hallway had its lights on. Foyle can see the faint glow of white light through the edges of the door. He almost bumps into a nightstand walking down the hall. His hand feels along the wall as he traverses the dark hallway. Opening the door, Foyle sees the room with the wallpaper torn apart. Various crayons and paints and condiments have been used to spell out mostly unreadable text on the wall, floor, and ceiling. The window was boarded up. There was a sandwich nailed into the wall. "Well, time for me to leave, I think," Foyle said. Bang! Shudder! Clang! Foyle heard the faint soft sound of the front door shutting. Then he heard the sound of footsteps running closer to him from across the house, and coming up the stairs, getting faster. Now, Foyle was a professional, and he knows he's supposed to be able to handle these things, but admittedly he panicked a bit. He ran into the bedroom and shut the door behind him, then he locked it with the turn lock on the handle, then wedged a chair under the handle. The footsteps quickly grew louder until they collided with the door, causing the hinges to shake and a big crack split down the middle of the door. Boom! Someone had tried ramming the door. Hey, I'm a detective. I was called because you were reported missing by crash, bang, thud, wham. Foyle had the feeling that whoever was on the other side of that door really didn't care about whatever he had to say. Foyle made a daring escape to the window. Ah, yes, boarded up. He sat there and thought for a moment while listening to someone or something try and break down the door, presumably to kill him. He reached for his gun. Must have left it in the car. Guess I'll die, Foyle said. He was jesting, of course. Foyle steadied himself with his hand in his pocket and observed the situation for a moment. He adjusted to the sudden adrenaline spike and tried to relax his nerves. The madman outside the door was still clawing at it, kicking it, trying to punch a hole in it, which was actually working, and the wood near the crack was starting to bust through. Excuse me, sir, or whatever you are, presumably a sir. Foyle tried to speak clearly and confidently. I'd like to assure you that I am not a robber. Bang, crang, crouch. There was a hole now punched through the door. The wood itself ripped and clawed and torn apart with the hand. In the line visible through the cracked open hole, Foyle could faintly see a face. I didn't think you were a robber, my good man, the mysterious figure said. You're one of them government fellows, yes? What? No, I'm... The figure left away from the door. Foyle heard a clamor of movement and things being pushed across the floor. The madman had shoved a drawer in front of the door. Excuse me, sir. What exactly are you... Where are you going? Hey. The face again pressed up to the hole in the door. Stay here, please. Foyle could tell in that moment that it was Mr. Jones, one of the missing people. Then Foyle saw Mr. Jones fade back into the darkness. Jones had rushed back down the main staircase to presumably the basement. Seizing the opportunity, Foyle pulled away the chair and unlocked the door, and hopped over the drawer. Running down the dark hallway, back down the stairs, and to the front door, Foyle came to face a series of locks. Undid the latch lock, undid the chain lock, undid the knob lock. Foyle shouted, "Why are there so many fucking locks?" Mr. Jones was coming back up the basement stairs now, creating a loud banging of various metallic clutter being bumped around as he moved. Because some people value privacy and safety, Jones shouted as he waved around a canister of kerosene. It was open, and he was drenching the floors, walls, and stairs as he came up. Foyle, noticing this, went over to confront him. Drop it. Give that to me. Hand that over. Now. Mr. Jones wrestled with Foyle, and the two tumbled into a corner, fighting over the canister. As Foyle crashed into him, the kerosene splattered everywhere over both of them. Foyle was quite a combat expert, and he knew his way in the martial arts, but Jones seemed damn well immune to pain, so Foyle was able to get the upper hand, initially, and kneed and grappled Jones into a corner, maintaining control mostly on top of him. But Jones kicked Foyle away, and Foyle stumbled into a table and tumbled over with it. Jones pulled out a lighter, flicked it into ignition, and threw it into a puddle of fuel. Whoosh! The darkened room suddenly had a better light source. The entire basement stairwell went up. Foyle ran over to the window, tore down the curtain, and started kicking out the glass. Foyle grabbed him from behind, though, and put Foyle into a rear-naked choke. Foyle rammed him into a wall, then managed to bend down and grab Jones' leg, lifted up, tossed him to the ground, slamming him through a table. Foyle was able to escape his grasp and stood up. He went right back to the window and with one solid kick put his foot right through the glass. Then, out Foyle went, back into the daytime open fields. Crawling out the window, Foyle was already having to kick at Jones, grabbing for Foyle's shoes, trying to pull him back in. Then Jones was worming his way out the window himself, chasing after, as Foyle was still scrambling off the porch towards the front yard. Foyle ran down towards the road and his car. He looked back to see Mr. Jones sprinting toward them. Smoke was starting to billow from the window. Foyle got to his car, fiddled with the key. See, he was an expert at this by now in his career. He wasn't an amateur. He actually calmed himself and carefully sorted out the ring of keys, picked the right one, unlocked the door. Good job. But as he did so, Jones tackled him, and the two got in a scuffle once more. Now, Foyle had not the disadvantages of a lack of light source, and it wasn't cramped in an unfamiliar building, so Foyle let loose. He punched and kicked and head-butted and wrestled and threw around Mr. Jones. As Jones tackled him into the car, Foyle spun him around, pressed into Jones, and knocked him with 3 good crosses right to the head. Boom, boom, boom. Foyle pushed Jones, causing him to slide down the car, and Foyle pulled away from him and kicked him a bunch while asking, "What's wrong with you?" Foyle grabbed Jones by his suit collar and tossed him aside, causing him to tumble across the road, but Jones looked up at Foyle with a crazed smile and another lighter in his hand. Having an idea of what Jones could do next, Foyle wanted to get in the car, but the keys were kicked under the car. So Foyle just ran down the dirt road. Foosh! Jones had set himself on fire. Then he started sprinting after Foyle. Thankfully, Foyle was a fast guy. He ran, he exercised. Jones was managing to close the distance, though. He was grabbing for Foyle's shirt. Jones left footprints with the rings of fire in the grass. Jones' flame sizzled the tree branches as he ran past. Foyle saw that across the dirt road back on the main highway was a black van coming their direction. Foyle hailed it down. "Hey!" Foyle waved at the van, sprinting towards it. "Help me! Yo! Hey!" Foyle and Jones ran down the road. The black van came into view. It was the same kind as those at the state park, and the crashed one in the creek. Foyle was running right towards the van, and jumped to the side at the last moment. The black van crashed head-on into Mr. Jones. The vehicle went right on over the flaming man, and kept driving right on, leaving only a flaming corpse in the middle of the road. Foyle ran off to the side of the road and hid behind a tree for a while, turning around to observe the scene. The van eventually came to a stop, screeching. Then it went straight in reverse, running over the flaming body again. Using his detective prowess, Foyle noted that whoever was driving the van likely already understood a bit more about the situation than he did. After all, why would they be so willing to resort to violence? Most people, when confronted with a flaming, on-fire type of individual, they would most likely want to somehow or another help them. Thankfully, whoever was driving the van seems to understand that a man on fire chasing another man down the street is no longer a sign of the two working as a team to get help. Foyle approached the black van. "Thank you." He was being a bit of a hassle, to say the least. The black van to the doors opened up, swinging outwards. The barrel of a shotgun was pointed down the nose of Foyle. It was held by a woman, adorned in black tiger-striped camouflage military fatigues and a gas mask. She was standing at the back of the van. The shotgun was a Remington Model 870, an SPS Marine Magnum variant with the stainless steel barrel. It still shot 12 gauges despite the name. "Hi," Foyle said. "Don't move," she said. "Why's that?" "I'll shoot you otherwise." "I presumed. I was just confirming. Anyways, that guy you killed was... How much do you know?" "He started attacking me. I don't know a single thing about any of this." She hopped down off the back of the van. "Why were you near his house? Do you know him? Are you related to him or something? What made you come out here?" "An officer near this area apparently took a call or two, madam, that some people had gone missing. I'm a private investigator, and he hired me to take on this extra job of his, considering he himself did not have the jurisdiction to do so." The military woman looked around and saw my car parked nearby. "You don't seem like them. You're not from around here? Do you have any proof? You're a detective? Go show me some detective gear. Get it out of your car or something." She waved Foyle over to his car for the gun. Foyle walked over to his vehicle. He reached underneath the car to grab the keys. He unlocked the trunk, pulled out a folder of documents. Slowly he walked back to the woman, handed it to her. With one hand aiming her gun and the other holding open the folder, she alternated between watching Foyle and reading. "This is all related to the case? To all the stuff going on around here?" she asked. "Yeah, geez, these are the people." "Alright, get in the van. You can help me with this." "What?" Foyle was quite confused. "What are you talking about? And what if I'm not in the mood for a car ride with you at this hour? Tell me what you know, and maybe I'll consider it. Tell me what's going on, and maybe I'll... Tell you what," she angrily yelled. "Look." She pointed to her van. "I'm a government agent. A bunch of people somehow got poisoned and started going completely psychopathic. Now look, grab whatever you need, and let's go, because we don't have enough time. I'm deputizing you to help me, since you already know what's going on, and I'm commandeering your files for national security, or something, I don't know." Foyle didn't respond. He just opened his car door, opened his glove compartment, grabbed his Colt Python, put it in his holster. Then he got in the back of the van. The two closed up the doors. Then she went to the wheel, turned the key, started up, and drove out. "Care to elaborate at all on the situation?" Foyle asked, climbing into the passenger seat. "No." "Fine. There are about 20 or so people confirmed who have been affected by a bioweapon. Its onset is 24 to 48 hours, she explained. "Are they zombies?" Foyle asked. "No. This is a lab-made virus. We aren't stupid enough to design a zombie virus. It was supposed to just screw with people's faculties, make them a mixture of dizzy, confused, hallucinate. We didn't expect it to, well, turn them into complete psychopaths. In your folder, I saw you already writing notes about the state park. We were trying to round up the affected people. We didn't expect them to become violent. Some of the crazies got shot, some of us killed. I ran back to get my gun and my van. By the time I got back, most of the action had already settled down. Most of the psychos escaped. That guy, what was his name? Johnny? Jones? I was on my way back to see if he went back to his own house. I guess he did. Was one of the affected people a bait and tackle store owner, perhaps? Foyle asked. Yes. And what happened with the other van? What other van? She asked. The other black military van with that crashed into the creek. There's a dead man in a white hazmat. Larry? She shrieked at Foyle, mentioning the white hazmat. He was the other survivor at the state park. He was my coworker. He took the other van to... He said he crashed? He's dead. He's dead? She slammed on the brakes. Where? Where did he crash? We have to retrieve the... There were these foot lockers with the canisters. They had canisters in them. And they were empty, actually. What? She grabbed her hair and pulled it out through the straps of her gas mask. Is that bad? Foyle asked. Presumably, she said. Well, look, hon, it's not so bad. I still got a couple of leads and ideas of where to look next. She put her shotgun to the side and revved up the van. She drove off towards the main highway. Foyle pulled out a notepad from his coat pocket. He read off the names of the 7 missing people. 2 were confirmed dead. If this random government person was saying... Damn it. If what this random government person was saying could be trusted, the rest were all insane, probably running around aimlessly in the woods, or maybe already arrested and held in jail. He noticed she had a name tag on her uniform, Agent 8. We should check with the nearest town's law enforcement, Foyle recommended. Silently agreeing that was a bright idea, she made a turn leading into Lake City. The road was vacant, empty, surrounded by foothills of fields and woods. I love the Pennsylvanian scenery, Foyle noted. It's wonderful out here. Early spring and all that. And that gun of yours, by the way, I must mention, it's a beautiful weapon, really. Can you shut up? She yelled at him. I'm plotting a way to fix this shit. What? Foyle tried to figure out what she meant and went silent for a moment. Oh, the contaminated psychopaths running around. Well, the police will find them eventually. What's the worst they can do? You saw what one of them could do. There's over a dozen out here in the fucking wilderness now. Listen clearly. About 2 days ago, the accident happened. About 20 or so folks got some bad water. We traced the water supply that got hit to their various houses, rounded them up, and put them at a state park. Now, even before they went crazy, they still obviously, well, most people were a bit upset being dragged out of their homes and imprisoned randomly and all that jazz. Then yesterday night, when the effects started kicking in, well, we didn't expect it to happen how it did. I saw some of the other agents observing the first guy we noticed going completely bonkers. What were the symptoms? Foyle asked. About 1 full day after exposure, the patient started, well, making absolutely no sense. He started babbling, muttering, speaking nonsense, laughing and crying and spasming randomly, alternating between claiming to be too cold or too hot, random nosebleeds, insanely heightened blood pressure. And that was all expected. It's a bioweapon after all, but what wasn't expected was, well, they attacked a guard. Foyle shook his head with disappointment. Let me guess. He bit him, and then the guard started going around biting others too, right? It's not a fucking zombie virus, she yelled, slamming her hands on the wheel. No, he strangled and wouldn't stop until someone shot him. Then at the sound of the gunshot, all the civilians scattered. One managed to hijack a commandeered truck and run it through the fence. A few attacked the rest of us. It was really chaotic for a few wild minutes. I ran back to my van to get my shotgun. I had to get the shells out of the glove box, scrambling to load it. I had ran to get it sinking. Just one of the civilians was getting rowdy. I was confused to see 20 different people running each way when I got back. Then, hearing the revving and pull out of a truck, tearing up the mud and crashing through the fence, I shot at it, putting a circle of holes in the back. More civilians grabbed my partner's weapons. 2 tackled him at once. 2 took it off and 1 shot with him. I fired at them, but I think I missed and they ran off. I saw at least 1 other of my unit survive. I told him to take the van. Oh, he's dead then. He's likely the one I found in the creek. Agent 8 just angrily eyed him while steering. Who do you think killed him? Foyle asked. Good question. The terrorist, probably. Shoot, you said that you found metal boxes with the van? It was crashed, you said? Yes. Are they still there? You said they were empty, right? No canisters or anything? We already went over this, madam. Then it must be terrorists. They took the goods. They were finally starting to make it to Lake City by now, making their way through, first to the outskirts and into the inner city. They finally started to see signs of other people. Parked cars, a person or two, on the sidewalk, buildings, residences, etc. What exactly did you say these, terrorists, you call them? What did they steal? The bioweapon. They were at Cherry Street. They were at Cherry Street. It wasn't really much of a city, really just a sparse collection of distantly connected buildings. It was mostly parks and fields still. Agent 8 hung her head on the steering wheel. Ah, don't despair, friend, Foyle tried to reconcile her. I'm sure those terrorists won't do anything bad if it's a dangerous chemical weapon. They'll likely just sell it to someone who'll use it somewhere else. She spoke in a dark, deep, sad voice. Did you find any clues, at the very least? At the crash site? Foyle considered it for a bit. Why, yes, I did. Footprints, and most strangely they were shoeless. She raised her head. Shoeless? What? They sat there and thought about it for a while, the two of them. Agent 8 eventually said, You know, I realize that the psychos tend to get naked a lot. Huh? You think the contaminated people are responsible for this? Well, that would line up with the hammer I found at the scene. You said a tackle store owner was one of them. Yes? Well, perhaps he went back to his store to arm himself before, murdering your friend. Co-worker, she corrected him. They seem to be going back to their homes, most of them. I don't get how they could have found the other van, or why they would have taken the psychogen. They wouldn't even know what it was. She started up the van again. The other van was en route to pick up Dr. Greed. That's the team captain. They know everything about this virus. We were supposed to fall back to base to regroup and rearm. Nobody was at the rendezvous at the specified time. Then I got the call that law enforcement may have been notified about something related to my mission. I decided to investigate the nearest residence of one of the contaminated, closest from where the call was made. I didn't know the dead was my colleague, nor did I expect to run into you. They drove off once again towards Dr. Greed's residence. Once again, they were back on the road, surrounded by mild greenery on both sides. You said that name was Dr. Greed, Foyle asked. Code name. Agent 8 was speeding across the empty road. Foyle was looking through the glove compartment, empty. Fiddled with the passenger drop mirror. Looking good, he noted that to himself. How dangerous are these things again? These people with the bioweapon messing with the systems. How smart, how... You saw one, she said, cutting him off. You've already seen exactly what one alone can do. Well, let's see. Pain resistance, the ability to use basic tools, speech, but kill them in the same way as regular people. They pulled up to a cottage. It was far off from any cities or towns or even any other houses. It was deep in the woods, looking almost like those houses in the Louisiana bayous, but not as wet. The two got out of the vehicle. Agent 8 grabbed her shotgun. Foyle made sure his revolver was in his coat holster. The two walked up to the cottage. It was a single-story building with wooden double doors that appeared to have been left open. Looks like you might have been a bit late, Foyle said as the two approached the cabin. But upon further investigation, it seemed as if the rest of the interior was intact and didn't seem to have any of the signs of the destruction or disarray that the prior areas did. The lights had been left on. Agent 8 lit her shotgun pointed forwards. The interior of the building was well lit. It was a very spacious, small cabin with only really 3 rooms. It was all wooden and the lights were all very yellow tinted. There was the main hall, which connected the other 2 rooms. The main hall had a bunch of cardboard boxes left open, empty. There was various metal shelves, most of which were also empty. There was some ammunition boxes, too, left open on their side, empty. There was a spare gas mask or 2 and some other equipment. Some flashlights, some battery, a broken part of a radio left on the metal shelves. It wasn't disorganized or smashed up. The room to the right was a large room with a big wooden table in the middle of it. There was a map pinned to the board in the wall. It depicted the local Erie County area. Agent 8 investigated that room first, slowly making her way in with their guns drawn. That can't be good. Agent 8 made her way up to the map and looked at a big red circle drawn with marker on it. The water treatment plant for the town of Erie was circled. Foyle decided to investigate the smaller room on the left, in the back of the cabin. He kicked down the door for no reason. It was unlocked. He broke the lock with a rather strong kick. Foyle made his way over to a small desk. The room appeared to be a very tiny office. Foyle decided to read the sheaf of papers left on the desk. Ha! Foyle laughed out loud to himself. This is just like in that one video game, Resident Evil. Just like how you have to read through various documents left behind by doctors or special unit team captains, so you can learn of all the various interesting ways they usually died. Agent 8 was too far away to hear Foyle whatsoever. Foyle read the files on the table. Dr. Greed personal log, in case I fucking die horribly like how I most likely will. 2026, April 13th, Monday. I, Dr. Greed, the person writing this, have absolute, complete confidence in this operation and see absolutely nothing wrong that can go wrong with it. Various members of the scientific committee expressed concerns regarding the safety of the mission, but I reassured the higher-ups repeatedly that everything would be alright under my supervision. 2026, April 14th, Tuesday. The operation has gone horribly wrong. I tried to warn them that the whole operation was flawed. Why didn't they listen? I have been exposed to the bioweapon. I was juggling the glass vial and broke it. This is incomprehensible, and I am ashamed of my miscalculation, considering my background as a juggler. I would like to clarify, I do not regret at all the act of juggling in the first place, but rather the act of failing at it. I do at least note that I did not do it in front of anyone, so I did not embarrass myself. Anyways, I am likely going to die now. Lol. 2026, April 15th, Wednesday. I appear to be perfectly fine. Considering this, I've decided to tell nobody about what happened and for them to go along with the procedure as planned. I have taken to nailing a PB&J to the wall in order to prevent the insanity and delusion effects from kicking in. Foyle looked to his left. There was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich nailed to a wall, as mentioned in the writings. Continuing reading the note, 2026, April 16th. The rest of the page went off like that. Scribbles and drops of blood lined the page as well. Turning to the next page for more valuable information, 2026, April 16th, Thursday. I lost myself for a moment there. Anyways, I feel fit as a fiddle now, and just got back from overseeing the first patients being taken in from the experiment. On the off chance someone completely unaware of the situation happens to reading this, it is imperative to know that we, the government, it's true, did some shady stuff, it's true. Okay, so to explain, we intentionally poisoned the water supply of some civilian townsfolk. We targeted specifically people isolated from the rest of the community, then we rounded them up just earlier today. I oversaw it. Everything went well. Now, to be completely fair, most of the government people died when the contaminated folk went crazy and violent or whatever, but I was talking to the peanut butter jelly sandwich on my wall, and the sandwich said it was time to eat their blood and flesh and all that, and for chaos to reign, but I don't know if I would go that far. So I decided to go out and find some of the contaminated folk and got a chance to sit down and interview, like I was intending to, some of these gents. I drove out and found a gang of 3 of them, got to talking, they took me to 4 more contaminated individuals. Eventually it's a big party. I got to know all these fine gentlemen very well and got to hear their side of the story. I apologize for my involvement with the agents who detained them initially. I am not sure if they realized I was technically team captain. Either way, it's all water under the bridge now. They came back with me to my cabin to relax for a bit. Some of them, I decided that the virus was perfectly safe, and in order to prove this to the agency, I formulated a plot with my new friends. I reckoned it to be best to attempt lacing the water supply of Erie with Psychogen to prove its effectiveness. I plan on rounding up some more friends and hitting the plant Friday night. Foyle considered the note. He nodded his head a few times, taking in the information. My goodness, what a scandal we have in our hands. We ought to take care of this right away. Hey, agent person, are you seeing this? Foyle sauntered back down the cabin hallway and met with Agent 8. Madam, I have 2 unfortunate pieces of news. Firstly, I have discovered that these, psychopaths have not only been the ones in fact responsible for stealing the so-called psychogen, as I believe you called it, they are in fact now trying to contaminate the water supply for a very large local city. Not only that, but your team captain, this Dr. Greed, was in fact also responsible for it. They themselves appear to have gotten somehow exposed to the virus. Also, it appears that your organization, in fact, intentionally, not accidentally, as you claimed, intentionally, emphasis on that, intentionally contaminated the water supply of various residences here, as if you were trying to make the very residents of this place evil. Oh, she said. Well, to explain, it wasn't supposed to drive them completely insane, it was just supposed to, I don't know, probably kill them. Ah, I suppose that makes it all good, then. Foyle pulled out his gun. Psychemogoria. And he pulled the trigger. Click. It was still empty from shooting the whatever it was he shot before. Ah, Foyle was disappointed. Very well then. He holstered his gun once more. The 2 wordlessly decided to work together regardless and swiftly left the cabin. The 2 obviously are heading out to the water plant. They get in the van, turn on the radio to some Mexican mariachi, and drove off. Foyle pulled out a pack of pre-rolls and was having some difficulty lighting them due to the various bumpy rocks they were driving over. Did you buy your license by chance? He asked. Hey, I'm kind of going fast because, well, you said it was Dr. Greed. You said my team captain. Wait, did you really say that my team captain was in on it? Like, I expected them to be dead. Before, did you actually say that they intentionally sabotaged the mission? I kind of skimmed over that. I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess it didn't really sink in until now. I mean, I don't like her anyways, but I don't know. I didn't think that she would intentionally kill people. She was accidentally exposed to the whatever. Oh, I see. That makes more sense. Hey, don't speed. You'll get pulled over, and then it'll take even longer to get there. Hey, your gun is unloaded, right? Yes, actually it is. Well, that's really interesting. See, I don't have any more ammo for my shotgun, and I already shot about 4 shells, so I have about 3 left. Well, we have a vehicle. We could obviously just run them over, unless they're in a building or behind a tree. We'll save our shots for those ones that are behind trees. I could probably take a few in hand-to-hand combat, and you could probably take a few. I'm sure we'll figure something out by the time we get there. Agent 8 pulled out her phone. It was a Samsung Galaxy J7 to be exact. I'm calling up the son of a bitch. I need to talk to this bastard. The phone rang. Pick up, you bastard. Hello? Greed. What the fuck is your problem? What problem? No issue here. Quit lying. You killed the other guy. What was his name? Anyways, you killed him, and that's fucked up. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not that. No. I would never round up the test subjects and gang up on my underling coworker, tracking down his van with my envoy and kill them. That's not my personality type, and nor would I ever steal a deadly bioweapon. And yes, you would. Okay, fine, I confess. But, listen, I'm just trying to show off that it's perfectly safe. You just know the government will ban this unless they know it's all good. They'll never test it themselves, so I'll take care of that myself. It's a bioweapon. I know. I helped invent it, you dope. Now, go back to guard duty and guard something. Me and the boys are fixing up one last house and moving on to, like, a power plant? No, water treatment plant, that's it. What? Dr. Greed hung up. What? What is she talking about? Fixing up a house? She means that, I presume, Foyle pointed out the window. As they drove out closer to the water treatment plant, they began to see a trail of burned houses. Homes, barns, cars, all had been targeted, some fully burned to the ground, some smashed into various degrees. Trucks had wheels slashed and mirrors broken. It was awfully quiet for how destructive the scene looked. I suppose that's how they're spending their day, these psychos. Unlucky for the locals, but lucky for the greater area. It might have bought us some time. Come on, perhaps we can get to the treatment plant before they cause the death of, my goodness, I suppose it would be a good many people would die, wouldn't they? Why, the death toll could be very well in the thousands. The two of them could see, now coming into the view of the water treatment plant. It was a semi-isolated building, on the outskirts, far removed from any towns. All the local small buildings, whatever they were, had been severely vandalized. The dynamic gang, the pair of investigators, pulled up to a stop right outside the facility. The door of the treatment plant burst open, right as they did. Running out from the building was a blonde woman, wielding an axe. Agent 8 immediately revved up the car, getting it started right as the blonde woman swung her axe down on the headlight of the van as it was reversing away from her. She did connect, however, and the axe hit the headlight of the car, obliterating it as soon as she connected. It was a very heavy, violent swing, and it sent shards of glass exploding in every direction. Agent 8 stopped, shifted gears to go forward, picked up a lot of speed, and whammed right on the woman, who was sent flying up in the air until she came back down and hit the concrete below with a whack. See? I told her to be able to use our car somehow, Foyle said, as the two of them came to a stop in the car. They both got out and ran towards the building. Agent 8 had her shotgun armed and was the first to reach the glass door. Agent 8 and Foyle rocked down the dimly lit hallway into the business office area of the water treatment facility. The lights were deactivated because it was supposed to be an off day. Nobody was here today. Despite this, there was still a bunch of knocked over files and boxes and papers and general sights of disarray, as if people were recently sifting through everything around the premises. Agent 8 and Foyle came to a stairwell, made of metal, which led downwards to a kind of industrial basement area of the building. There was pipes and conveyor belts and tools on desks. Lined up on the walls are wires and a bunch of other things that go into a water treatment facility that are probably there. The dynamic duo walks cautiously and carefully down the metallic staircase, when suddenly they saw them. It was a gang of 7. People gathered around a big white barrel of some kind of water, and a few other smaller barrels of various mixtures of compounds and chemicals, all of which were connected to some set of pipes which themselves looked like they were set up to a boiler or something similar in appearance. The gang of people was now trying to wield open some kind of metallic covering on top of the barrel. Dr. Greed was in the middle of the gang, holding up a canister of the psychogen. Dr. Greed looked over to Agent 8 and Foyle. Oh. Hi. Agent 8 immediately fired his shotgun directly at Dr. Greed. Bang! This caused the canister to immediately explode. Dr. Greed and all the people standing around her all stumbled and fell, blasted back in different directions. Nice shot! Foyle gave his thumbs up. I was aiming for the doctor, actually. 2 from the gang of lunatics charged at Agent 8. Bash, kashlunk, bang. That... Fuck. I can't believe I fucked up. Sorry, hold on. Okay, there. Anyways. 2 from the gang of lunatics charged at Agent 8. Bang. Kashlunk. Bang. That was rather easy enough, but unfortunately now Agent 8 is out of ammo. Foyle considered it for a moment. These people were clearly insane, so he tried concocting a kind of plan. As one of the psychos was about to charge him, Foyle pulled out his gun and said, "My good man, you appear to be completely unarmed." Miraculously, this did actually manage to stop in his tracks the madman. For us to have a proper bout, you need to be properly armed. Use this. And Foyle handed him his revolver. Oh, Thank you, the Psycho said. No issue, my good man. I'm a fair man of combat. The Psycho shot Foyle with the empty gun. Click, click, click. Foyle played along with him, though, acting as though he was shot, recoiling back from the imaginary bullets. Ooh, you got me. Ooh. Good shot. Foyle took a knee. The Psycho cheered and clapped. Bravo, great performance. Then he ran over to Foyle and started bashing him over the head with the revolver. Foyle was stunned and battered and tried to grab at the hand of the lunatic. Hey, now, the leader guy, gal, whoever, didn't she say to kill both of us or something? I'm already dead. Go kill her. Foyle pointed at Agent 8. She was currently getting viciously beat up by 6 different psychos. She was curled up on the ground getting kicked, clawed, punched, and such. Literally knocked around the floor, which was smooth with marble so they could actually slide her around with their kicks. Yeah, go help them kill her. I'm already dead, see? Foyle shook hands with the Psycho and they parted ways. Foyle ran over behind a large set of barrels near the back of the treatment lamp. Dr. Greed was hobbling around, trying to get to the emergency exit. She was headed across a catwalk towards a staircase that would lead out of the building. Foyle ran up to her when Dr. Greed wasn't looking and punched her right in the back of the head and tried to shove her off the catwalk to kill her. Die, stupid fucking lab coat wearing government bitch. Foyle grabbed her lab coat and forced it over her eyes. He kneed and hooked at her stomach while swinging her around by her arms, which were caught in the coat above her head. He elbowed her in the mouth, and she fell backwards off the catwalk finally. Ah! Splash. Foyle sung out the victory theme from Final Fantasy and jumped up with his arms raised. Then he did the victory symbol or peace symbol with his hand and winked at wherever Dr. Greed had landed in the waters below. Foyle ran back to Agent 8. She was still getting beaten to a pulp by the crowd. Foyle contemplated as to his next line of action. He looked down at the bag left by the Psychos, near where they tried wielding open the tankards. Foyle saw a canister of Psychogen. Picking it up and eyeing it over, he said to himself, sometimes the cause of a lot of trouble can become what fixes the trouble, if used properly. Foyle went over behind the Psychos with the canister. He hoisted it over himself and full force brought it down on one of their heads, killing them. Looking about and noticing none of the other Psychos had noticed, he carried on to the next. They were too busy pulverizing Agent 8 to notice their members being picked off one by one. Clang, 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 clang. It had come down to the last 2 Psychos by the time they had noticed the noise and commotion had died down significantly. They stared at each other, both silently wondering where everyone had gone. Clang. And then there was one. That's a lot of clangs. What the fuck was I writing here? Clang. It's just like an Avatar. What the fuck? Okay, yeah, read the book. Sorry. Foyle and the Psycho looked at each other for a good long bit. Agent 8 curled up on the ground, torn up, shaking, coughing up small amounts of blood with her gas mask dangling off. Foyle raised up the canister one more and, without a word, threw it full force into the head of the last standing Psycho. It completely toppled him and sent the madman flying backwards, tumbling to the ground. Clang. You good? Foyle asked the trampled mess of military equipment and blood. Those zombies did a number on you. They're not fucking zombies, she said as she stumbled up to her feet, readjusting her gas mask on. She walked with a limp back upstairs. You are officially undeputized. Come with me and I will return you to your civilian vehicle. Foyle laughed as he walked up along with her. Perhaps I should drive. You're a reckless driver when you're in good health, let alone near incapacitation. No. She wiped away her nosebleed. My job doesn't let me just lend out my car. They stepped outside. It was like when you're in a feeder and you're used to the dark interior. It was evening now. Foyle started to feel that sense of satisfaction of having reached a mission then. As the two were loading into the van, Foyle asked, what do you think the local police will think of this whole situation, whenever someone comes across the corpses and all? She sat down in the car and closed her eyes. I don't know, man. She saw it in silence for a while. That's my agency's job. I'm a field agent, security chief, not misinformation campaign management. My guess, they'll call it a cult or something. They tried to poison the water supply. Ended up poisoning themselves or something. I don't know. She started up the car and the two drove. Hey, you had a pack of pre-rolls I saw before. You still have them? Can I have one? Foyle gave her a joint. Did you forget your shotgun? She slammed the wheel and immediately turned back around. She reparked the car, got out, and went back inside the water plant. Foyle waited for what felt like 10 minutes, even though it was really only about 3 or 4. She came back out and put the shotgun in the back, reignited the car, and once again drove out. Thanks for reminding me. That would have sucked to lose, honestly. A line of police cars and ambulances and fire trucks went in the opposite direction as they drove past the burnt houses and vandalized residential areas. Where do you think they're off to? Agent 8 didn't respond to the question and just annoyedly eyed him. I'm joking, of course, Foyle laughed. Hey, did you get back your gun? She asked. Oh, god damn it. They turned around. Alright. That is the first chapter of this story. Um, all right, sorry, I had to step away from the computer for just a bit. All right, I'm back now. Sorry, I had to step away for a bit there, but I wanted to get to a part where I could step away. Anyways, that's the first chapter of the story. That's, I believe, the longest chapter, so I apologize for writing this. This is a weird fucking story, but let's go. We can't stop now. We can't stop now. So it is time. Chapter 2, In a Woods. Foyle let the glass door shut behind him. Entering back into his office and sitting down at his desk, he reflected on the day. You know, I technically didn't save any of those missing people. I just prevented more deaths. An odd victory, but a win nonetheless. Foyle recollected a bit on his time as a detective. What was his first mission? What was his first encounter with the paranormal? Ah, yes, that's right. It was late autumn, nearly a decade ago. Foyle smiled with nostalgia, reminiscing on eagerly answering that very first call. That high-pitched, frantic voice screaming for help. Hello? Hello? Yes, this is Psychemogoria, private detective for paranormal encounter. Help me! You gotta help me! I called the police and they thought I was pranking them and... Yes, ma'am? What is your complaint exactly? My friend ripped off his face and killed everyone at my house. Ah, a reasonable complaint. I hate when that happens. Anyways, just stay hidden or whatever. I'll be there in like half an hour. Broom, broom, beep, beep. That's the main character, Foyle, driving his cool car down the road, going off to help the people. Vroom! It was nighttime, and a bit cold, a little windy. He drove right up to the house and ran over a bunch of stuff on the lawn and pulled right on up to the house. The nose of his car bumped right into the window and smashed it in. Don't worry, I'll save you, Foyle said to himself, getting out of the car. Then he ran, jumped, and dove right through the window. Crash! Never fear, friends, gentlemen. Detective Foyle is here. Oops, wrong house. Everyone inside was perfectly fine, except they all looked really scared and frightened by the detective. I meant to go to the house next door. Foyle explained to the shaking mother, clutching her child, hiding behind a sofa. Foyle left through the front door. Classic novice mistake, Foyle said to himself, in present time, looking back on the incident. Then he ran down the street. This is the past time now, the story Foyle is contemplating in the present time. The first mission story. Try to keep up. And he was running down the street, like I said, try to keep up. And he was shouting, stop! Cease! In the name of the law! And the law's name is justice. Rookie mistake, Foyle said to himself, in the regular present time, where he was recalling the story from, try to keep up. Never make your presence known to the target. Then, back in the present time, then back in the past time, the first story, try to keep up. The past story, back to it. You get what I'm saying? Foyle was running. He would be hard to keep up with, try to keep up, because he was running very fast, and he crashed into the front door of the house. Oof! Then he fell on his back and laid there for a while. Silence. Calm zone. Then, see, I'm giving you the chance to try to catch up, so try to keep up. Foyle eventually got up and kicked at the doorknob. Okay, didn't work. Door's too sturdy. He tried the knob. Unlocked. Alright, that works. He stepped inside. There was clearly blood and organs and ripped apart skin and other flesh-related activity going on in there. Directly scattered across the floor with all this viscera. Foyle still wasn't sure if this was the right house, though, and rechecked the house number plate by the doorbell before re-entering. He nearly slipped on the blood walking in. I'm not a janitorial service. I'm just clarifying in advance. I can investigate ongoing paranormal events. I do not clean up the results of them. The interior of the house was poorly lit. There was one lamp knocked over into a corner in the living room. The light coming from behind the shade covered it, tinting it a brownish red, coloring the wooden panel floor. The sofa was turned over. The window shutters had been hit with a chair. This caused the shutters to have tumbled down into a big pile. The TV was on its side. The screen cracked. Well, something certainly seemed amiss. Foyle watched his step making his way into the house. Hello? Is anyone there? I'm the detective. I was called to this residence. A client here supposedly wants my services. Foyle sat down, calling out for the homeowner. He regretted it as soon as he did, though. He gasped in annoyed shock, realizing he had just sat in a blood splatter left on a chair. He stood up and investigated it closer. It was severely discolored, a much darker shade than regular human blood. It was nearly green. From the top of the stairs came running down, thud, thud, thud. Foyle prepared a combat stance, raising his fists in a dispassionate boxer stance, maintaining a stoic, inquisitive, and annoyed look. But it wasn't a threat, and came running down from the second-story floor was a woman, specifically the person who called him. "He's in the basement," she screamed as he ran out the front door. "Madam, madam, we hadn't discussed." "What is the darn thing? What about payment?" "Madam." Foyle was already annoyed by the flighty nature of most people in tense situations, and this was just his first mission. Rookie mistake, Foyle said to himself. In the future, present, sorry, you know, from where he was recollecting the story. Try to keep up. Never complain about the customers while on the job. Lost the job working for a psychic that way. Anyways, back in the past, you keeping up? Foyle opened up the basement and flicked on the light. Yep, don't work. Fuck you. Then he stomped down the stairway. He brought out his lighter, a Zippo, and lit up the scene. At the bottom of the stairs was, in the faint orange light, an oozy green-scaled mess of blood and flesh chunks and organs. A snarling, hissing lizard man in the middle of the mess shrieked at the light. Yep, I've read about these, Foyle said in the past. At the time that the story happened, that he is telling. Keeping up. Foyle, in the past, at the time the story he is telling, stepped over the green lizard man. Excuse me, pardon. The detective decided to search around the basement for anything that could remedy the situation. Yes, perfect, that'll work. Foyle pondered just how lucky he was to find such a perfect solution to the present conundrum, in the past, keeping up still, which presented itself in the form of a nearly full canister of gasoline. He opened it and threw it generously across the basement floor, walls, tables, chairs, whatever have you. This will do the trick. He stepped back over the still screaming, wailing, cannibalistic pile of writhing lizard flesh. Quiet down, you, Foyle doused the creature, which was still sliding atop a mound of human body parts. Author's note. Dead human body parts. Of dead people that are dead because the creature killed them. Foyle threw his lighter at the bottom of the stairs from the top and closed the door. It muffled the sound of screaming coming from the evil monster. Smoke started to pour out from the door's edges. Foyle dusted off his sleeves and walked back out the front door. The woman who called was sitting in the sidewalk edge. She turned to face Foyle. What happened? Your house is on fire. Call the fire department. Anyways, I won't charge you for these services today because I burnt your house to the ground. Oops, sorry. You win some, you lose some. Complain about it, you're cruising for a bruising. Nah, I'm just joshing you, ma'am, no offense. Foyle walked back to his car. Little did he know a tiny goblin stuck in the trunk while none but the divine were looking. But that's a story for a different day. Foyle put down the book he was reading about himself. This one, in the present day times. Kept up. What the fuck was I doing? Foyle looked at the time, and then punched a clock full force, sending it flying across the room. He wasn't angry or anything, it's just the effects of that magic sword I mentioned earlier. Why'd I do that? Anyways, Foyle stood up with his hands behind his back like a cool-looking movie character, even though nobody could see him. He was just doing it for himself because sometimes people like looking cool just for themselves, okay? Foyle went over to a bulletin board with strings and thumbtacks and pictures. You know how detectives and schizophrenic conspiracy theorists tend to have such boards? Foyle was both, so he had a lot of these boards around his office, each with different topics. The board he was eyeing up now had been one, displaying a case put on his back burner for a good long while. A series of disappearances, much like the last case. These ones were over a longer time, however, and all centered around this one. Central area. Inner woods. Now, this wasn't a real location in real life. Now, the rest of this story may take place in Pennsylvania, and most of the locations are real places, but this particular spot was special. It only existed in the story. So that means it would likely be important in the plot. Foyle had no way of knowing this, however. He hadn't read it that far in the story. If I were to try to force it to be equivalent to a real area, I would say it's the Allegheny National Park. I'll be pretending it's called In a Woods as a very obscure reference to how people online used to refer to scary stories about forests as In a Woods stories. Anyways, Foyle was looking through some pictures placed across the board, missing hikers, some bones found scattered around, mysterious footprints, conflicting witnesses' reports. Some say they saw unidentified flying UFOs around the area. Others say they hear unidentified flying UFOs. Others say they hear strange sounds in the night. The footprints, however, don't match any aliens Foyle would know about. The rest of the evidence doesn't align at all with aliens. Actually, there was, back in the 1800s, a man who lived in a cabin in the deep woods. He had ties, supposedly, to a set of various cults and magic guilds. He was removed from at least one major magical society that Foyle could find, for apparently smelling really bad and being kicked out of secret meetings. The townsfolk of Warren County, according to compiled scraps of newspaper Foyle could piece together, One day found him guilty of something called unspeakable acts against humanity and nature and God. However, the reports didn't go into much detail about the exact nature of those crimes. Why, people in the 1800s, it could have been an act of public urination for all I know, and it still will describe him as such. There was a chime on the bell as someone entered the Psychemogoria. Oh, who in good heavens could it be now? Foyle slapped a bunch of objects off the table. Full force. Boosh! What? Can't you see I'm busy? The customer walked in apprehensively, due to the shouting. Huh. Is everything all right, sir? Is this a bad time? It was the officer. Rookie's a cop. From earlier. Upon seeing the customer, Foyle changed his demeanor, calmly approached him, reaching out to shake his hand. My good man. Good to see you again. This is a good time, actually. Care to take a seat? Foyle put a very, very small chair that was too small to sit on next to Rookie. Oh, man, I don't think I can sit on that. It's too small, Rookie said. No, it's fine. You can sit in it, Foyle said, holding the chair that was far too small to sit on. It's not that small. Foyle put it by Rookie's feet. The chair seemed to be growing smaller by the moment. No. Anyways, did you save any of those missing people I asked about? They were all dead. Oh, the officer said with a hint of disappointment. I killed them. But don't worry, they were evil or something. Foyle grabbed a TV remote and turned on a TV positioned conveniently right behind Rookie for dramatic effect. Well, not evil, but zombified, whatever. I don't know. Foyle leaned back with his feet on the table. The channel was a news station. This just in. A group of people have been found dead at the Erie Water Treatment Plant. Yes, government officials are saying it was some random cult that decided to take rat poison or something like those Heaven's Gate people. Then both news anchors laughed a good chuckle. Ha ha ha! Those wacky cultists, what will they do next? Then it went to commercial of a guy selling his body parts. Why didn't you tell me it was cultists? Rookie asked, turning around to look at the relaxed and reclined detective. No, they're lying. I killed them all. It was me. Foyle pulled out a bag of chips from his desk drawer and filled with it, trying to open it. Don't lie now. Don't lie to me now. The officer wagged his finger at Foyle. The TV people clearly said it was the cultists. No, the government tested bioweapon on like 20 people and they all went crazy, so I killed them by bludgeoning their head with a metal canister. But the TV people said that. Shut up. Rookie laughed. Ha, I'm just joshing you. I never trust the government. I'm not that simple. You feel me? Anyways, hey, at least you tried, you know? It's funny that this whole case kind of reminded me of the Cambria County tankard incident just a few years prior. Foyle stood up at the mention of that event. The Cambria County tankard crash incident? The Cambria County tankard crash incident? How do you, of all people, know about anything about that? Foyle patted his lap and beckoned Rookie. Sit in me lap, me boy, Foyle said. No. Rookie kicked Foyle in the leg really hard, insulted by the offer. I was there. Nonsense, Foyle responded. I was there. I wasn't aware there were any other survivors. You were present for the whole fiasco, rounded up with everyone else? Oh, there were many survivors, weren't there? Let's just go through the scenario again, between me and you, just to clarify we're talking about the same event here. Very well, you start. So, a few years ago, I got a call to investigate some people that had a common issue, a collective complaint, if you will. Right. Their skin was melting off, and they were disintegrating into violent mutants after the CIA tested a new city microwaver weapon. I didn't know that was the cause. I just got a call about some, well, strange-looking folks with their skin melting off, as you mentioned. A severe conundrum. Very severe. No laughing matter. They both held back a chuckle. Again, they weren't evil. This was all the effects of that magic sword. That'll be very relevant going forward. So, what next? From your point of view, I showed up and accidentally ran over one of the mutant people? I was wondering what happened there. I presumed it was a government, but it seemed to happen a bit before they showed up. Judging by the... No, it was right around when they showed up. They started corralling people into vans early on. Yes, for a wide area, too. I recall even unaffected areas getting booted into buses and sent out to those makeshift camps. I was there. Me as well. I was brought to a camper set up outside the main building and questioned by this official. Huh? Huh? You got to be questioned while I stood on the crowded staircase of some barely guarded cabins? I heard the sound. The chain-link fence gate swung open, rattling around. Yeah, this is the same scene I'm talking about. What exactly happened? I saw some commando-looking man enter the front door. He didn't look like the other guards. He had some black outfit on. It was a ripped plague doctor's outfit, mask and all. I saw him up close. What happened? I only got to see him briefly. Gunfire started going off, and the guards in the camper wouldn't let me go out first. When they went off themselves to look, I ran back to my car. So, that commando appeared to be a mutant. I could tell just by looking at his red, chunky, disintegrating arms. He resembled the affected microwave people. Oh, was he a disgruntled mutant looking to shoot the guards? I presumed that, but I noticed something right away. The mutant commando kicked down the front door and started shooting not the guards, but the mutants. Really? At first. See, the commando had this, assault rifle of some sort? And he shot, it was a foul, I would guess. He shot one by one only the mutants and some of the other unaffected civilians like myself. I mean, I wouldn't have shot myself, but, at people like me. I almost got stampeded in the staircase. Anyways, one of the guards shot the masked commando and a chunk of flesh burst off him, but unlike the ordinary mutants, the commando was unfazed and dispatched the guards similarly. My. I did hear a lot of gunfire. Yes, a lot of people got shot. I suppose I presumed more got killed by the commando than it would appear now in retrospect. Moving on, I made my way into one of these offices on the second floor. I had to move with the stampede. The crowd scattered down the hall into different rooms. I heard the smashing of windows. Could tell people were climbing out, jumping, as I could see them running across the grass to the chain-link fence. I was barricaded in with 2 soldiers and had some other civilians there too. The guards only had pistols. The blonde one, without a helmet, pressed up a desk to the door. I don't understand what his plan was, but I can only imagine he'd have to assume it was a normal person with a gun up to that point. However, it wasn't, and a hail of bullets could be heard being fired out the first floor, windows towards some of the escapees. My hearing was acute in these moments, I suppose, and in the silence after his clip presumably ran out, I heard the creak of footsteps coming up the stairs. I, being intelligent, went over to the window, but get this, the second guard grabbed my arm, stopped me, pointed his Mauser at me, and told me to stay put. The fool! Some people, they just have no common sense in intense situations. Even soldiers, apparently. Though I have a feeling that these are some sort of special unit designed for a secret covert response or something. You would suppose that they would be more trained, but it seems the inverse sometimes. Anyways, the guard prevented me from leaving, and just a few seconds later a spray of bullets started being fired through the door. The blonde guard fired his pistol back. I tried to warm him. Tried to shout, "Gentlemen, he seems to be immune to bullets, but don't let that stop you from trying, I suppose." I said something along those lines at the time. I'm not sure. The guard restraining me was yelling over me, unfortunately. Perhaps I could have corralled these 2 knuckleheads into a fighting force proper had they just listened to my instruction. But the ego on these people. It's like they never encountered a dangerous gun-wielding commando mutant before. Amateurish. Disgraceful. So anyways, the blonde one got shot eventually from a random bullet and, died. This seemed to have gotten the attention of the other guard, who took to firing and letting its clip through the door. Possibly not even hitting a single shot in the mutant target, although it wouldn't have really mattered much, I suppose, considering that, like I said, it appeared immune to bullets. The door was kicked in, the desk was sent flying across the floor. The last standing guard was reloading as the mutant commando raised up his FAL and blasted him. Swiftly, the commando returned its attention to the last few remaining survivors in the room, including myself. I noticed again the commando shot first the mutant. Yes, one of the individuals that had taken to hiding in this room with me was one of the affected people, and in hindsight it really should have been obvious that the commando was targeting other mutants. But it was muddled by the fact that at this time the commando was also blatantly shooting everyone else as well, just with a preference for those looking melted. I crawled across the floor and managed to grab the gun from the now deceased guard. I grabbed the clip that had fallen, reloaded it, pointed it towards my nemesis. I'd like to just mention, I had a feeling it really wasn't going to do much, but you never know if something like, one of the bullet sponge type things, like a lot of the bigger critters are, or if they're immune to, or if they're one of those things that are immune to bullets. I was actually leaning towards the latter at that point because already of just how resilient it looked to it. But I'm not a defeatist. Besides, I wanted to observe how it would react to a standard gunshot level 4th a bit more up close. Alright, I'm justifying myself a little bit now. Perhaps I did just panic a bit in that moment, and fall into the standard folly of getting scared and loading into a target. I'm in this sort of profession, paranormal investigator, and all. It's my job to properly respond to each and every threat appropriately. You can't just shoot everything, and I know that. Anyways, I noticed that it did seem to phase and stun the commando. After all, Ugh. Sorry, I keep screwing up lines. Anyways, I noticed that it did seem to phase and stun the commando after I fired the first shot into the head. I decided to spend 2 more bullets checking around for any vital parts. Stomach shot, mild effect. Leg shot, minimal effect. It appeared to be not regenerative, but rather simply unfazed by its parts being blasted off, I suppose. Its skin seemed to be naturally more resilient. Somehow or another, to the bullets, I mean, you could shoot the same part off it again and again, and it would just splatter blood again and again. At the time, I presumed a regenerative ability, but I could see the gunshot hole in it, so in hindsight, I don't really think it was regenerating. I think it was immune to pain and very tolerant to any sort of physical damage. Either way, I noticed that physically it was stunned and recoiled back from the force of the shots. It just got right back on the attack immediately afterwards. So I got up and jumped out the window, and I would guess that everyone else hiding in that room died shortly thereafter because I heard a bunch of gunfire from the mutant commando. You didn't try to help them? Now, don't blame me, you're a cop. According to you, you ran away from this exact same situation just a few moments prior. Besides, I left the window open for them. I didn't have a gun. A gun wasn't doing anything against this guy. What, am I supposed to guide them to the door or window or whatever? And push them out or something? I shot the guy that was shooting them. It didn't prevent them from being obliterated shortly thereafter, but I did attempt to help the situation. Whatever, just move on to the story. So I jumped out the window, running towards the woods. It took a while to get out of the facility area because of the stupid chain link fence. I heard a bunch of gunshots from the building, screaming, yada yada. Suddenly this commando plague doctor dude, whoever, he climbed out a first-story window. He's dropped his gun at this point. I guess he ran out of bullets or something. Anyways, he starts speed walking at me. You serious? Yeah, I mean, his legs couldn't run due to, I mean, most likely it's due to the mutanism or whatever, but I actually think it may have been his outfit or something. Anyways, he starts speed walking at me at a 4-mile-per-hour pace, just menacingly. So I ran, and ran, and ran, and it was funny, actually, because he was just very persistent. If he ever got too close, I'd just shoot him and stun him the same, and then run away again. I tried to ration my ammo due to this. Eventually, I took to having fun with the simple goon. I went in circles around him. I let him get close just to see what he'd do. He just grabbed aimlessly for me. A rudimentary intellect, I concluded. I was able to get fairly close and could see on his mask there was written something. What? If found missing, please call this number. Really? Yes. I pulled out my phone and called him up. A voice answered. Voice on the phone, in the past, in the story being told now. Yes, hello? This is the government, the United States speaking. The whole government? Just one member of it, a representative of it. Yes, I'm a member and representative of the United States government. Is what she said, yes, and she continued on to say, what is your complaint, or... So I told her. Everyone has been shot at this makeshift camp. The number on the mask of this thing currently trying to kill me said to call you. Sir, that is classified information. I can't tell you anything because it's top secret and you civilians are too stupid to handle anything to just go die and see how much I care because you're all dumb and... I'm one of the guards here. Certainly, I'm with you. Oh, well, why didn't you just say so? Geez, anyways, we made a big evil mutant monster guy thing to go kill, let's say, help out the mutant people we microwave. Just don't attack it or aggravate it, and it should only attack the mutant people. We sent out a letter. It should be there later this week explaining how to handle it. Why did you... We didn't want to give it a very new expensive rifle, so we just gave it a foul. I was going to ask about the why you microwaved people. To see what happens. Why kill them? So others don't know we did it? Anyways, if it's causing trouble, just douse it with acid or something. Then she hung up on me. I was clueless about what to do. Well, how would I ever find any acid around here? But miraculously, looking just to my left, I saw a billboard, a sign for the grand opening of a new acid factory, Aphex Acids. An acid for everyone. That was the tagline. It was just a few miles away, so I ran off. I noticed halfway there that I went too fast, and the poor little commando lost track of me. I had to go back and let him catch up. Anyways, I got to the factory and ran out to the front door. There was this guy at the front gate, though, a worker patrolling as security. He grabbed me from behind and told me to, acid factory worker, in the past, in the story being told now, said, "Stop right there, criminal scum. You have violated the law by trespassing. Hey, listen, I have this mutant commando guy coming after me, and the only way to kill him is with acid, so in other words, I'm looking to make a purchase." Huh? I've heard it all, kid. Yeah, you got a mutant, sure. Now, I oughta give you a discount, is that it? Why, I oughta... No, really, I'm quite serious. See, I told the man, and I pointed to the commando power walking up the road towards the facility. What happened next? So, the acid plant worker let go of me, and went right up to the mutant commando. I told him, I tried to shout out to him, don't do that, he's crazy, he'll kill you. He's aggressive. But he didn't listen. So, the acid plant worker goes up to this mask-wearing, 7-foot-tall, drenched in blood, skin-peeling-off creature wearing a plague doctor mask. Worker goes up to him and starts pointing at him and saying, "Alright, buddy, Buster, mister, I don't like your tone, or the way you're walking, or the way you're looking funny at me, and I certainly don't appreciate how you..." And this mutant just instantly eviscerated this dude's head with a single punch, killing him instantly and literally exploded his head on impact. So I refocused my attention towards the door and opened it up. So inside, it's like this big facility and all that with the catwalks and the giant open vats of acid everywhere. And random chains hanging from the ceiling. It was dimly lit. Honestly, would have been a very hazardous work environment. 2 steps in, literally almost walked straight into head first into a big giant vat of acid. Right there. Like, there was a single guardrail that I bumped into that prevented me from going in. Then, you know, boom, the door gets kicked in. The mutant commando is there. So I just keep a brisk pace walking along these catwalks, and it's following me, and I don't think there's anyone else around at the time in the facility, at least in that particular section. The mutant commander was standing on a catwalk across from me, and between us was this big giant vat of green Aphex acid. What's Aphex acid? No idea, this is what the giant vat was labeled as. Author's note. Aphex acid does not exist. This is an obscure reference to a song by the artist Aphex Twin, specifically the track Cock Version 10. Anyways, continue. Anyways, so I notice that this mutant thing just keeps chasing me down, walking right on towards me, so I just stand directly across from it in front of the acid vat, and what do you know, it walks directly through the guardrail and lands directly into soup. Very nice. Yes, thank you. Then it starts thrashing about as if all of a sudden it realized that was a bad idea. So the pair laughed a little bit over their story. Why, I wouldn't have guessed that you would have been such an adventurous type, Mr. What's your name? Foil. Tin Foil. Tin D Foil. Tin Diesel Foil. You know, I myself have a few interesting stories. What, of valiantly running away every time a random mutant shoots up the place? Hey, come on now, I've had my fair share of adventures, and misadventures. Alright, shoot. Oh, well, there's a few Christmases ago that this one interesting case came up. You talking about all those people getting murdered so savagely and brutally and all that, that got me nostalgic for this one Christmas of mine. When was it? 3 years ago? I got a call to a neighborhood. It was Christmas night. 2023, Christmas. Why, let me check my files. I feel like there was some sort of case around then that The Diamond Avenue slashings? Yes, that was it. You investigated that? I only read up on it afterwards out of interest. I responded to the initial call. By God, really? Well, now I'm interested. Tell me, what exactly did happen? So the station got a call. A man was seen walking around with a knife at night, supposedly stalking houses. I'm told this on the radio. I'm trying to drive out there from the main city, and it's a blizzard. I'm driving out to this more suburban outskirts type area, so the snow's unpaved, my car gets stuck, and I go on foot. Then, pretty quick, off the side of the road, I saw a frozen corpse. I investigate. The blood's all frozen, he has a lot of stab wounds, no further sign of mutilation otherwise. I'm about to call it into the station when I feel a mitten wearing a hand on my shoulder. I've just about jumped out of my skin, but there he was. A big, fat, jolly man with a long white beard and a big red suit. Ho, ho, ho! Is how he greeted me, and then he said, Merry Christmas! You've been a good boy this year, and I have a special gift for you. Did he stab you? No, he handed me a wrapped up box, a Christmas present. I opened it right then and there, and what was it? What was it? It was a PlayStation 4, had a copy of Dark Souls free, and a copy of Resident Evil 4 the remake. No flippin' way. Yeah, frickin' way. And I just got back in the car, drove right on back to the station, and me and the squad have played all those video games until the next morning. Ha, ha, ha. Nice, nice. Anyways, who committed the murders? Was it Santa? It's possible. I don't think he did it, to be honest. He coincidentally happened to appear at that time, but I don't see a knife on him or anything. Santa wouldn't do that sort of thing, but who knows, maybe. That's a great story, friend. With that, the two stood up and shook hands for no reason. Rookie turned to leave, but the schizophrenia bulletin board caught his eyes. The officer went over to examine it closer. Are you investigating in the woods? The officer asked. Foyle nodded in affirmation. I was planning to scout it out later tonight, I suppose. Get into some extra work. Hey, I heard all sorts of stories of interesting stuff about it. Well, why, people go missing in those woods every now and then. You're a detective. Tell me, what exactly is going on out there? Foyle noticed something off with how Rookie spoke. A good man, we were only doing dialogue format for a moment. We return to standard style now. Rookie went red with embarrassment. Sorry, silly me. Anyways, what's the deal with those woods? Is it aliens? Bigfoot? Foyle dug through one of his desk drawers. He picked it up off the floor. No idea. Hence the plan. To go check it out. Foyle grabbed a box of pre-rolled joints. He took out a marijuana cigarette and sparked up right in front of the police without consideration. Even if Santa is a murderer, he has good choice in video games. Foyle stepped and turned around to the detective. One last question, mister. He wiggled his finger and squeaked in a high-pitched voice. One last question. He spun around and danced a little. Foyle looked dead ahead with a blank, serious stare, sitting completely still in his chair, awaiting the question. Rookie asked, What's the scariest thing that ever happened to you on one of your adventures? Foyle laughed. I thought you were about to ask about the thing in the basement. They both laughed. Foyle continued with the story. See, long ago I was once investigating, let's say, lesser activity. In fact, my budget was restricted at the time, quite severely so. I undertook one type of case where I was investigating, how should I put it, a strange website. A haunted website? Kind of. It was rumored to show people's footage of their own death before it happened. Ooh, Rookie said. Yes. Ooh. Anyways, the website thing, I went on it and basically, at the time, it caught me slightly off guard. I saw footage of people dying and all that, but that's not what got me. What got me was that I saw a live stream of myself about to die in another anomalous way, just like the others before me. However, did you get out of that one, dear detective? Well, officer, I watched the video, and I saw the video displaying me just a mere minute ago, finding the footage. I saw myself on stream, surprised. I investigated a source of camera, but the positioning implied an apparition or otherworldly phenomena instead of a real technology-placed camera. I saw myself on stream encounter a ghastly form, a shadowy mass of scythes and whips, a black fog with a tentacle of blades, as if it poured into the room. It stirred itself up into a tornado and attempted to engulf me. I dove for my gun on the table and attempted to shoot the apparition. It did nothing, so I ran for the window. It was too late and I was torn to pieces. How did you survive? When I saw what happened in the live stream, I went over to my window, opened it up, jumped outside, and left until the next day. How did that work? Because on stream, it's shown me confronting the creature. I decided not to play by its rules. They're very interesting rules, and it tells you how it will be, and hopes folks will go along with it. It's a surprisingly effective tactic, so it would seem. Yeah, it caught everyone else still and hasn't been caught. Correct, Rookie. Well, someone should get on that. Maybe one day me and you will team up and capture some monsters together. Okay. With that, Rookie tipped his hat and bowed and waved, and then he ran out the door so fast that he nearly tripped. He has mild autism. Rookie exited the Psychemogoria. Foyle looked back over the bulletin board. This is my livelihood. Foyle randomly grabbed the bulletin board and just dropped it to the ground. It studded and the papers and pins jumped off and landed everywhere. Foyle had no reason to do that. He was just a very confused individual sometimes. Foyle stormed out the door, walked down the sidewalk. Rookie waved to him, seated in the cop car, getting it started. Foyle waved back but instinctively started keying Rookie's cruiser as he passed by. Foyle was in the routine of doing that to any government vehicle. It was second nature at this point. Foyle got in his car and screeched out, driving out on the curb, again in front of Rookie, who didn't care, didn't notice, and therefore could not care. Foyle ran through a red light and a stop sign while going over the speed limit by exactly 4 miles. Foyle regained his composure and pretended once more to respect traffic laws. He intentionally sped up when he saw someone crossing the street in front of him, calling the pedestrian to run out of the way. Foyle turned on a CD player which had the Toy Story 1 soundtrack playing. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Foyle clutched the steering wheel as tears pooled to his eyes. I fucking hate Randy Newman. People don't have friends in real life. He pressed a disc eject and threw the CD to the car floor. He pulled out an Aphex Twin CD from the glove compartment. Selected Ambient Works Volume 2, Disc 1, Track 1, Cliffs. Okay, cool. In the woods. What is in the woods? Has everyone really been in the woods, or is it all a sham? Where do woods come from? What is wood? No time? People's lives are at stake, specifically mine. I gotta drive there. Drive fair. At the road stare until you get there. Care Bear. There. Fucking amateurs. Screwball. Foyle was a very confused man sometimes. Foyle suddenly stopped the car in a screeching halt at the side of a diner. He threw open the door, ripping off his seatbelt. Just get a coffee. Get in, get out. Just get in, get out. Alright? Alright. He entered the cafe and realized it was a haunted cafe, but it was too late. Fuck, he posited. The door shut behind him. He opened it and walked back into the cafe because it led back into the cafe again now, like in Nightmare on Elm Street when she tries to leave Freddy's house into Dream World and leaves the front door, but leads back into Freddy's house now, so the cafe door led back into the cafe anyways. So Foyle picked up a plate and smashed it into 1,000 pieces. Then he went back out the front door into the cafe again and picked up the same plate and smashed it into 1,000 pieces again. Then he went out the front door again and smashed the same plate again. Foyle left the cafe, which for some reason acted regular again, and he went back to his car. These things happen sometimes, I suppose, he said. He turned up the music. He crashed into a tree. We're here, he said. The woods. There was a sign. It said, "These are the woods. The spooky fucking woods. Beware, you fucking idiot." Foyle looked at the sign. Good advice. He entered the woods. He instantly died. Nah, just joshing. He's fine. Foyle went up to a tree. It had a giant slash mark cutting through it, and was covered in a red stain, and had various organs and a human hand splattered at the ground. Huh. Maybe it's the tree itself, Foyle guessed, pulling out his gun, his Colt Python. Bang! Nothing happened. Nope, guess that's not it. Foyle went deeper into the woods, deeper into the horror. He didn't use a trail or anything, he just brute force drudged through the dense foliage and bramble. It was misty, and the bog and swamp-like nature of the forest gave everything a greenish tint, like it was a cartoon or something. I don't know, whatever. Foyle saw a giant circle left in the grass, like a crop circle. Fucking aliens, Foyle said. Foyle saw a cave of strange markings and a bunch of blood and bones around it. Fucking skinwalkers, Foyle said. Foyle saw a spooky, decrepit, properly haunted mansion on a hill. Fucking ghosts, Foyle said, walking up a misty, silent hill trail up to the house. He knocked on the door. He refused to stand on the welcome mat. He picked up a rock and dropped it on top of the mat. It fell through the mat, and the rock tumbled down a trap door shaft that led to, presumably, a torture dungeon. Figures. Foyle used a decrepit log as a makeshift battering ram in the front door. He stood carefully at its side as the door swung open. A shotgun trap went off, blasting at nothing. I see. Foyle chucked a stone through the window. It was covered in bars, welded in. Foyle walked back to his car through the woods. He opened up the trunk and got out a canister of gasoline and a box of matches. He carried it up the hill again and started pouring it around the perimeter of the house. He noticed a generator near the back, which he doused. He noticed a camera appeared near the gutters by the roof, and noticed it trailed him walking by. Foyle stopped to wave to it. He poured gas all along the building and made his way back to the front porch. He chucked as much gas as he could in through the window of the front door. "Hello down there," he shouted down through the trap door. "Any potential victims trapped down there? Now is the time to make yourself known. If you cannot, please attempt to make an escape, as I expect, let's say, severe structural collapse is inbound for this residence." After waiting 10 seconds for a response, Foyle threw down a lit match and stepped back with his gun drawn. The fire spread. The fire rises. Foyle took out a marijuana cigarette and lit it, with the flames of the house. A voice shouting out from the attic could be heard. Then, the sound of random gunfire, more screaming, crashes, bangs, and booms could all be heard from the building. Then, running out of the front door of the building, jumping across the giant trapdoor hole in the ground, was a giant of a man. 7 feet tall, built like a strong man from a carnival. He was wearing a paper bag duct-taped over his head. He was shirtless in dark green rubber overalls and boots. He ran down the porch through the flames. Foyle shot him in the side as he ran out. He screamed a guttural, deep, dark moan of a scream as he fell to the ground. He screamed as he writhed in pain, clutching his gunshot wound. "I am a private investigator. I am here to investigate the disappearances of over 37 people who were last seen in these very woods. Help me! Did you kill by chance 37 people, good sir? It would clear up my investigation really quickly if that's the case." "Fine. Yeah, okay, fine. I killed 17 people. 37? 17 people. Came to my abode. None would escape. 37, you mean?" The murderer calmed down for a bit. "No. Just 17. "Then we still have a problem on our hands," Foyle said. He reached out and helped the murderer back up to his feet. "Tell you what, my good man. You help me catch whoever or whatever killed 37 minus 17 is 20 people. Help me catch them, and I'll work with a judge to help get you a reduced sentence. But you gotta promise no more murder." "What?" he said. "The murder guy?" "I don't know. Murder has been my favorite hobby for years, but maybe you're right. I can turn over a new leaf. A new chapter. I can be better. You're right." He wiped the blood off his hands from his most recent victim on his overalls and shook Foyle's hand. "My name's Big Zam, by the way." "Consider yourself deputized," Foyle said. "Now, do you got any leads as to who might be killing people around here other than yourself?" "Oh," Big Zam excitedly spoke. "I do, actually. On my cameras, I always see random people go to this one cave. Whenever they go in, I see a bunch of blood and organ spray out of there and hear a bunch of screaming. This cave here?" Foyle pointed to a nearby cave that instantly became too dark to see into despite it being daytime. Foyle kicked at a random bone on the ground. "Is this from the cave?" "Yeah, that's the one," Big Zam said. "Okay." Foyle smiled and nodded. "Get in." "What? No," Zam protested. "Okay." Foyle smiled and nodded and pointed his gun at Zam. "Get in, please." Emphasis on the please. "What? But I don't wanna. I'm scared. Can't we just, I don't know, throw a rock into it or something?" Zam pleaded as he chucked a large stone into the cave. "Ow, fuck!" A new voice shouted in pain. And from the cave it yelled, "Stop! I'm trying to sleep." "Alright, tell you what. We both go in," Foyle said, and Zam agreed. 1, 2, 3, go. Foyle stood still while Zam went in. "Help me, get it off, sir, get it off, stop, help, soon as you help me." Foyle waited about half a minute before heading in. Inside he saw a tussle ongoing between Zam and a big deer-looking type thing. It wasn't a deer, just something with a deer head and fur, standing on 2 legs covered in viscera and blood with many exposed bones and organs. Foyle shot it 4 times, unloading his revolver into the creature. Bang, 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 bang. It fell to the ground and started hammering the floor with its fist in pain. Gotcha, Skinwalker. Foyle spun his revolver before holstering it in his coat pocket. I'm a Wendigo, you fucking bastard. Oh. Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I mistook you for a... What's the difference? Tham asked. Well, one hunts for fun. These ones hunt for sustenance. Foyle rushed to the care and aid of the Wendigo, trying to tend to the wounds he just prior inflicted. You fucking dick, she screamed in a low voice. I'm so sorry, miss. What's your name, ma'am? Wendy. Wendy the Goon. She stood up and brushed off the bullets and blood on the cave floor and regained her composure. I'm terribly sorry, but your revolver is merely a stun. It wouldn't do for a proper hunter. Madame, it's intended as a mere stun for a creature like you. Had I considered you a friend and known you as a Wendigoon, I'd had prepared proper. Shut up, Big Zam said. He picked up a sleeping bag off the ground. A bunch of bones fell out. Ma'am, would you know anything about this? Foyle asked. No, she said. Yes. Fine. I ate 10 people. Only 10? Are you sure? Exactly, and only 10. Then we still have a mystery on our hands. Who killed the remaining, 10 people, I guess? Oh no. Big Zam started shaking. That means there's still a killer on the loose. He started panicking. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What the fuck are we gonna do? Calm down. Simmer down. Simmer, I say. Big Zam jumped into the arms of Wendy like in Scooby-Doo. What are we gonna do? They both screamed in unison. Simmer! Simmer down! Simmer! Simmer, I say. Foyle sternly said and pointed his finger at them. They both ran off, and they both ran out of the cave screaming, and Foyle came out running after them. Simmer! Simmer, I say! All 3 ran across the open field, screaming. Rookie mistake. They all got caught up. All of a sudden, a green field of energy was in a beam shot down from the sky. It was a tracking beam from an unidentified flying UFO. So, they all got caught up in the tracker, which pulled them in at a slow pace. They stopped screaming. They were now frozen with horror, except Foyle. He was just upset that he didn't prepare any gear for an alien encounter, so he had to hope these were friendly aliens. But were they? I don't know, fuck it. Anyways, they got taken into the ship, and inside was, man, it was actually really tiny and crowded. It was just a circular metal room with a line of window around it. There was buttons and knobs and levers and beeps and boops and a tiny green man in a spacesuit. He had 3 fingers. He said, "Greetings, Earthlings. We come in peace. Please kill it!" Big Zam lunged at him, the tiny green man. Big Zam, no! Foyle rushed to tackle and stop him. You're better than this! The detective, murderer, and alien crashed into the control panel, which caused the ship to start to spin out of the air uncontrollably, and it started to nosedive. We're all gonna die! We're all gonna fucking die! Wendy the Goon said. It's all your fault! I blame all of you for this! Everyone jangled and bashed against the walls of the ship. Big Zam still tried attacking the alien, trying to grab him even in the chaos of the crash. Fucking die! He screamed. Simmer! Foyle pleaded once more. And then the ship crash-landed into a mountainside. Foyle opened the emergency hatch which flew out into the Rocky Mountains. Foyle was bloody, bruised, very injured. He crawled out. Soon enough all the others did too, including the alien. Why did you attack the alien? Foyle asked Big Zam, who was clutching the side of his paper bag ducked to his head, which was pooling some blood at one of the corners. It scared me, Big Zam responded. A bunch of black vans all drove up and surrounded the 4, all still stumbling out of the crashed UFO. A gang of people in black combat fatigues got out waving around assault rifles and wearing gas masks and black army helmets. It was closer to dusk now, so they had their flashlights on. One of them was armed with a shotgun instead, and had white paint on the helmet of the letter 8. It was Agent 8, the agent woman from before. You were speeding, she said. After all, you must have been going faster than light in order to make it here. No, wait, I can explain. All 4, Foyle, Zam, Wendy, and the alien all started to explain at once. I was investigating, I'm a murderer, and I killed, I don't know, I have nothing to do with this, I'm a normal deer, and I'm an alien. Oh, just shut up! Just shut up! Get in the van! Agent 8 said. Wait! Foyle walked up to her with his arms raised. You were the agent from before. You owe me, madam. Okay, here's $20. She handed him a 20. So the gang all was corralled into the back of a black van together. They drove off, awaiting their fate, expecting eternal imprisonment. The poor, green, tiny guy in the spacesuit started crying. I just wanted to visit Earth. Oh, why is everyone being mean to me for no reason? Foyle grabbed his shoulder. Sir, I apologize. It would seem your first visit here was, well, terrible. Nobody's first encounter with humanity should involve the government. It would scare anyone off, Wendy said. I'm going to prison, Zam lamented. No, we are not, Foyle said. Listen, here's the plan. I think they are coming to a stop. As soon as they open the doors, all of us jump out and attack them. Then we scatter in different directions. Let's try it. The van was parked. The crew stood at the doors. They had no better plan, so they waited for the opportunity to strike. The door was open from the outside. Foyle front-kicked the first agent standing there, knocking her gas mask off, dangling off her face. He jumped out and grabbed her in a rear-naked choke. Big Zam tackled her. Wendy just ran off. And the alien cried in the back of the van. Wait, stop, guys, stop, hold up. Agent 8 explained. Foyle and Big Zam did in fact stop in their attack. They noticed that they were back at the crash site, except there were no other vans except their own anymore. I brought you guys back to your ship or whatever. Take it and get out of here, Agent 8 said. You're helping us? Foyle asked. I told the others to head off without me, and that I'd take you to a secret area or whatever. Oh, well that's very nice of you. Foyle let go of her. Foyle went back to the van. Hey, Mr. Alien, he asked. Yeah? The alien responded through his tears. Come on, they took us back to your ship. Let's get you home. Really? Like, really? And the alien got up and excitedly waddled towards the ship. As he was getting back in through the latch, Foyle gave him the stray piece of metal he found from earlier investigating in the woods. I found this, by the way. I don't know if it's yours, actually. The alien took it anyway as a parting gift. Foyle, Agent 8, and Zam waved goodbye to the little UFO that started to hover off the ground and flew off. With that, Zam went back to his home and Agent 8 gave Foyle a ride. Home. Alright, that's the first 2 chapters.